that was done with proposal writing, grants. Yes, grant and proposal writing. Of course, they are kind of interwoven, but there's still a kind of a slight difference in.
We are live now.
Yes, I can see. Thank you. There's still a kind of slight difference in what both stand to offer. I mean, the information. So today I'll be talking about proposal pitching and storytelling in research. I am Olasukanmi Seun Omojokun. By way of introduction, I'm Nigerian. I had all my degrees in Nigeria. Had my first degree at Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, where I studied biochemistry. And then after which I proceeded to the Federal University of Technology in Akure, where I studied applied biochemistry and had my master's and PhD right there at FUTA. So I joined the faculty of Elizade University in 2016. And of course, I was there as academic staff. I am still there officially as academic staff. After which, of course, in 2022 was my first trip to the United States on the ISN-sponsored conference paper presentation. After which, I joined Purdue University as a postdoc. So Purdue University is located in the Midwestern part of the United States. I joined the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research, where my research focused on studying the tumor microenvironments in multiple myeloma. I wouldn't want us to dwell so much about my foundation and transition from studying degenerative diseases like cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, Alzheimer's, transiting to inflammatory bowel disease, and now into cancer. So, going straight to the lecture for the day, or the presentation for the day rather, we are talking about proposal pitching and storytelling. And we have this, of course, in 6 different segments, where it's going to open us to number 1, the research proposal as a story. Why the narrative structure wins funding. Then the second one, we talk about the core story elements, where we look into the problem, the gap, the solution, and then the impact. These are the core elements of proposal pitching and storytelling. And then we move to the segment of knowing your audience, which has to do with tailoring your pitch to the reviewers, and then structuring the pitch, that is from hook to call to action. And then the visual storytelling, where, of course, the use of figures, diagrams, data narratives could come in handy in giving your story and your proposal a strong footing. And then the common pitfalls, which are, of course, the likely things that could probably kill the proposal or be a kind of shortfall to the approval of your proposal. Firstly, this says funders don't fund projects. They fund stories about changing the world. First and foremost, what is proposal pitching? What is storytelling? Many thanks to Dr. Ogunshi last week, of course, who dwelt so much on grant writing. And like I said, of course, the proposal pitching and storytelling is like a dovetail of the grant writing, which was first treated. This is just to tell us how we can carve our story in in an enticing way that could carry along your audience and win your desired grant. Now, 80% of grant reviewers say clarity of narrative is a top factor in funding decisions. Now, you're preparing for a grant, submitting, of course, for a call that was made. There are so many factors that you have to take into consideration, which is that your proposal must be able to persuade, not just describe. Logic alone doesn't win grants. It must be able to persuade, give reasons why you are the right person to win or to get the funding. Now, of course, the reviewers who are going to review it, they are human. So they respond to structure, they respond to emotions too, and clarity, just like any other reader. They want to see the direct flows in what they are reading and then the viability of what you are presenting. That is it really going to make sense, and is it going to make impact to the community? Now, the story now has to create memory. A well-framed narrative makes your proposal stick long after reading. I've seen some proposals or some grants that I won, and I keep asking myself, oh, this doesn't really sound interesting. But because of the impact it's going to make, the person got the grant. There was a particular grant we were involved in my institution back then in Nigeria. We just looked, we came together as the faculty grant writing and proposal committee. And one of us said, I've had the opportunity to move around the small city, and he keeps seeing bunches of banana and plantain trunk on the floor. I mean, on the farm, walkways, so many places around. And was like, why is this going into a waste? How do we make something out of it? And then, of course, we took a keen look at it. And of course, we identified that, there's a kind of fiber in it. Him being a physicist and with a touch of chemistry in his background, we had an analytical chemist also who joined, and then an industrial chemist. Long and short of this is, eventually we were able to extract the fiber, made the fiber to develop a product that was a better alternative to the fiber that was used for POP. I mean, making ceilings. And of course, the university went into commercial. The university planned to going into commercial, into commercializing it, but unfortunately, I think we lost the chief, the PI of the project, and our system. That kind of puts the project in a halt. It's still painful till today that is still resting on the table. Back to our proposal pitching and the storytelling. When we are writing a proposal and trying to pitch our story to get the attention of the reviewer and win the grant, number one, we identify the problem. We establish the urgency. Why does the issue matter now? Who suffers if it is unsolved? For most of the medical science or health-related health risk, of course, that you have to probably come up with the incidence rate or the prevalence rate of that disease condition. For example, we were talking about and hypertension, of course, creating that, making statement or information about the problem is going to and give the reviewer that you have an understanding of what you're presenting to them, like starting it with the incidence rate or the prevalence rate of hypertension in the country where the project is to be funded, and then in the locality, and then probably stating also within recent time the effect of it, and then the projection, probably projection of it going to increase, like in 10 or 20 or 30 years time. Now, having stated this, you don't have to state the gap. What does the current knowledge miss? This is where your work find its place. For example, like I said, if you are talking about hypertension, of course, you come up with a gap that yes, there has been existing antihypertensives being used, but probably some of them are accompanied with some side effects. I remember there has been report of few cases of the Black population developing angioedema when they take when they take this angiotensin 1 converting enzyme inhibitor. That is a gap. You state that, and then your research approach should be able to give the solution. Frame your research approach, that is, frame an answer and not just the method. So now you've identified the state, you have stated the prevalence or the incidence of it, you have identified the gap in the pathology of interest that you are trying to tell the public that you want to work on to contribute to the reduction of the disease curve. Now, the next would be to give details of how you want to go about it. How do you plan to do this? Not just saying methods. You have to frame it in a way that the approach is which word do I use now? That the approach you are going to employ is feasible. I remember back then we were in the presentation, and then because there was this new area in plants biochemistry where everyone seems to be isolating and identify phenolics or phytochemical compounds in plant samples. There was a young man who was working on animal egg. And because he's been seeing a lot of assays about and the estimation of total phenol, total flavonoid, characterization of the phytochemicals, he put the same thing in an egg sample that he was going to explore. That, of course, of course, any reviewer seeing that will know that this person is not well prepared for this, and that's going into the trash can. You don't just decide to pick your methods based on what you identify as being popular or the new trend. What if it's not applicable to what you want to do? Then the fourth one is the impact. What changes in the world if you succeed? Quantify and qualify the benefits. Now, if you are going to put in, of course, at the advent of the methods and your research approach, what is going to be the effect? What change is it going to bring to the world? You need to state all that. And these four elements, of course, form the narrative spine of every strong research proposal. If you are able to give distinctive, clear presentation of these four elements, your proposal, of course, is of course scaling to getting what you desire. Who reviews your proposal? Number one, the subject matter experts. There is deep disciplinary knowledge. They have the deep disciplinary knowledge, value rigor, novelty, and methodological precision. The proposal you are writing that you want to submit, of course, is going to be reviewed by different experts. And you must be able to meet their expectation as far as this is concerned, because they already have sound and deep knowledge of it. So you just giving a surface information of it without in-depth description of what you are doing to know that it tallies or it's in agreement with what you are presenting is very important. Then there's the cross-disciplinary panels. They are a mix of experts. They value clear problem framing and a broad significance. Just as you have the subject experts, you also have the mix of experts. For example, if you have a research proposal being submitted in the area of medical science, don't be surprised that if you are submitting on a field, for example, that has to do with cardiovascular diseases, for example, you're going to have mix of experts that are very grounded, that have had series of experience, decades of years of experience in that research area. And then you now have cross-disciplinary panels again that will probably, if you are looking at maybe developing a therapeutic agent or synthesizing it, you will now see some pharmacologists also coming on board as part of the reviewers to see, and of course, see how you're going to describe the pharmacokinetics or the pharmacodynamics of what you are developing. There are also the program officers. They have the administrative lens. They are not scientists or experts in science per se, but they have their own interest, the value alignment with funding priorities and the feasibilities. What's the priority of the funding? What's their interest? Does the funding only involve graduate students? Does it need postdocs to also work on it? Or does you understand the study you are presenting is only probably for just a graduate student that is applying for it? Some grants may request, oh, okay, I mean, probably that's an old, or yeah, we still have it till today, that they say it must be maximum of 5 pages in 12 fonts and in 1.5 spacing. This is what the administrative officers take a look at. And then what is the feasibility of what you are presenting? If they say the research time frame is 1 year, and you drop the proposal of 2 years, these ones will definitely screen you out. That's their interest. They don't know probably that the research you are presenting could actually take 2 years, could not be completed within 1 year. It's not their expertise. So in that regard, even if what you have in mind will take about 2 years, you have to find the means of developing a proposal that suits their own request on their funding priorities and their feasibilities. Also, there are non-expert stakeholders. They value real-world impact, accessibility, and the practical outcomes. This could probably be representatives of the funding agencies. What they are after is the results. What impact is it going to make? Tell us how impactful it's going to be. I remember when I got in here, I was on a project on multiple myeloma. So the project is to develop multiple myeloma is a cancer of the bone marrow. The project has to do with an immunotherapeutic agent to be used to study the tumor microenvironment and see the possibility of course suppressing the tumor and taking care of the cancer cells within the bone marrow and the system. Now, in the course of the experiment, we're giving quarterly reports to this organization on how far we have gone, what we have done so far, and then what we have found out or what we have discovered. The experiment, the research was to be a kind of a combinational therapy of an immunotherapeutic agent and then, of course, development of CAR-T. But unfortunately, there was delay in the CAR-T development and production. They needed to see that. Why? Because the research was funded by a foundation. the foundation has a kind of thematic focus and sentimental attachment towards it because the family or the couple that donated billions of dollars towards the project needed to see that this is going to make impact to the world because one of the couple died of that disease state. I mean, of multiple myeloma. Now, in the course of the research, I now find out that, oh, there is something interesting. The research, the female seems to be responding to treatment better than males. Now, it was the husband that died of multiple myeloma. Oh, I later got to find out this. And incidentally, the same treatment strategy that he was on, there was another patient who was a woman who was also on same treatment strategy. And in the course of their treatment, this man who was who funded this organization that donated this money died, and then the woman survived. Not the wife, but the other patient. So when we're making a defense and we stated this, somebody now said from the group that said, oh, we record that there was a case like that when so person died, there was another patient who was reported to have actually responded to the treatment. And incidentally, she was a female. Immediately they affirmed that from their experience, they increased our grant for another 2 years and said, we need to see the outcome of it. And now are you going to improve that in male? So just as we have experts, cross-disciplinary program officers, we also have the non-expert stakeholders that are part of the review body, who their interest is just the impact it's going to make. Now, tailoring your narrative. Number one, you lead with significance. State why it matters before how you will do it. I mentioned this earlier. You have to let the reviewers know, why is this important? You cannot, for example, be talking about, be emphasizing on malaria research in the United States here. It is not important to them. Like, for example, if there's an open call for research and what you're presenting to them is malaria research, how does it affect them? So you have to state why it matters. Identify the situation that is threatening the locality or the funding, or locality, and then create or carve your proposal around it and strengthen it up. Let them know why it matters. Mirror their language. Use the founder's own strategic priorities language. For example, the founders may have identified that, oh, there has been some other drugs that have been used. They have seen cases of chemotherapy or whatever, and then their interest now is on immunotherapy or radiation therapy. You have to mirror that their language and let your plan be towards that, because that is their interest. You need to work on what they are interested in before you can get their attention. Anticipate objections. Address feasibility concerns before reviewers release them to you. For example, if you are running an experiment that will probably need animal study, and then maybe as the PI who is applying for it, of course, we all know in developed countries that it takes some time before you could get all the paperwork to carry out animal study. And then if the study you're applying for is about 1 year, and then the next thing you do is that the animal study commenced just like from the 3rd month of the research. Someone who has vast experience on animal experience, vast experience on animal studies would probably raise an eyebrow that how feasible is that if you are getting a graduate student If you're getting a graduate student or new recruit, and then you think that the person will be able to hop in on animal studies in less than 3 months. And then, of course, at the defense state, or you could have stated there that, oh, yes, the postdoc we are employing that will be on the project was a former graduate student in the lab. Definitely the person would have had all the certifications done and could probably get on the experiment almost immediately. Any form of other objections that could come from your proposal, all this should have been anticipated, and then this well stated. Most of the proposals we submit, of course, they are not there to defend it. So your statement should be able to defend itself in the information you give. Calibrate jargon. Define terms when writing for mixed panels. When we were still very young, of course, we always want to try to impress with our knowledge of the scientific terms and just use it to show that, oh, I know what I am saying. I have understanding of this field. Seriously, they are just jargons if you think you want to use that to impress the panel or to intimidate them. Whatever medical term that you state, try as much as possible to ensure that they are well, of course, annotated somewhere on the proposal. Show that you know the field. Reference relevant prior work. Demonstrate scholarly context. Most of the proposals or call for applications that come, of course, give room for preliminary data. That is what will show your knowledge of what you are stating. For example, the project I was talking about, we were able to show them preliminary data of our previous findings, how the agents we are using is actually, of course, suppressing the tumor. That shows that we know what we are doing, and we have preliminary data showing that what we presented is working. That, of course, gives them pays them to be kind of rest assured that they're not wasting their money on the project or what they have given to you. Now, these are the basic pitch structure. Number one, the hook. The hook has it that open with a striking fact, paradox, or real world scenario that creates urgency. Reviewers decide in the first paragraph. Your first paragraph must be able to be captivating, like I stated earlier. It has to have that striking fact to let them know that, oh, okay, I have knowledge of what I am saying, and this is the current state of what is happening. And then this is the current situation, and if this situation is not arrested or attended to as soon as possible, this is what it could lead to or it could cause. The context and the gap. Efficiently review the literature and identify the precise knowledge gap that your work addresses. In this regard, you already have what you are targeting. You have developed what you want to do in your mind. And then the next thing would be, now there is a situation, there's a challenge that you want, which is the gap that you're trying to take care of, to fill. So the gap you are identifying you must be able to prove why it is not sustainable, or could not be relied on for long. And then your alternative would now be brought on board to state why what you have, of course, supersedes that. The next would be your research question. State your central question or hypothesis with precision and clarity. This is your story's turning point. You have the problem well stated, and then the next thing is you have the gap identified, and then the next would be, yes, this is the situation, that is the problem, and that is what I am attending to. This is the situation that I am trying to turn around. And then the next would now be, how do you plan to turn it around? Describe your approach. Describe your approach. Give a perfect presentation of how you are going to approach the process. Describe it. Make sure that your information is coherent. Make sure that what you are presenting is feasible, and also ensure that it is innovative. What they are interested in funding is the innovation and the novelty in what you are presenting. It must be able to stand out and, of course, provide solution to what they are thinking. And then after that, what is the expected outcome, or what would be the impact? Close with the so what. Describe who benefits, what will change, and why this work matters beyond the academia. So when you are doing this, in short, your storytelling or proposal pitching has some 3 important contexts that it needs to contain. Number 1, the but story, the therefore story. The but story is giving the hook. Then the therefore story is identifying the gap and the hypothesis that you have generated from it. And then the so what story is, okay, I have spotted the hook, identified the gap, come up with your methodology. What is it going to do? For example, we could have it this way. This is one I actually crafted from one of my research, from my research area, for example. I said, thanks to immunotherapies, more and more patients with multiple myeloma survive. We have seen so many immunotherapeutic agents that has been used now in the management of multiple myeloma. But in 65% of all cases, those patients develop a regrowth of the tumor. And regrowth is a kind of recurrence which leads to osteoporosis and bone degradation. I have created I have identified the gap, that yet, even though immunotherapy seems to be working for the management of multiple myeloma, there is still a gap. Over time, in the course of the management of this situation, 65% of the patients that are being managed, you eventually see that the tumor that probably was initially suppressed starts regrowing after a period of time. And the regrowth seems to seriously affect the bone, causing massive inflammation and then degradation to the bone, thereby reducing the life expectancy of the patient. Now, I now said, therefore, I am researching on combinational therapy by introducing radiation therapy after the immunotherapy, so as to avoid recurrence and halt the bone degradation. That I have stated, I already identified the research question, that I am stating the methodology and what is going to what is going to do. So now there has been immunotherapy, but in this case now, I am now looking at, because I don't want the recurrence that has been the usual case for about 65% of patients, I now said, okay, we're now looking at combinational therapy. That in addition to the immunotherapy that we have identified, let us also do radiation therapy. Projecting that the radiation therapy would have probably mop up or suppressed the tumors. And once the tumor have been maximally suppressed, then you know that, of course, the likelihood of recurrence is very low, and therefore the inflammation that destroys the bone, leading to osteoporosis and bone degradation, would have been taken care of. And then the last part of the so that, you say, so that at the end, there would be complete tumor suppression and bone preservation. That is a short description of proposal pitching and storytelling in a kind of in multiple myeloma research, for example. So visuals are not decorations. They carry narrative weight. Now we're on the visual narrative. Conceptual diagrams show how ideas relate. A good conceptual model can replace paragraphs of explanation. I think I would say about 15 years ago, we hardly have cause to show anything like a graphical abstract when we were publishing. Like 15, 20 years ago. I didn't start publishing 20 years ago though. But let me say 20 years ago. But these days now, I don't know of any serious journal that you would be able to submit your publication if it doesn't have a graphical abstract. So the visual and the conceptual diagram, it's very, very important. You have to sit down and design it. A good one, of course, is you already give the reviewer a summary of what you have before they even go into the context per se to read it. Then the data figures. Preliminary data builds credibility. Visualize your pilot results to show feasibility. In any grant that you are trying to submit, of course, you must have had preliminary data in that subject, in that area of research. You cannot, for example, have been working majorly on Alzheimer's, for example, and then you see a call for proposal submission in multiple myeloma, which they needed preliminary data, and then you go hopping on that to apply for such. How do you want to link your preliminary data in Alzheimer's to link it with what you have in multiple myeloma? Except if probably your subject area is just showing the efficacy of a synthesized compound, though. Then there is the timelines and the Gantt. Project timelines demonstrate that you have planned realistically and you understand the scope. The timelines would not only state the time, it also has to state the activities that each of those timelines would be handled. I remember in 2019, I applied for a grant, a fellowship to be sponsored by the government of India. And the grant says the fellowship says maximum of 6 months. But my own research interest was to carry out a kind of an in vivo study. So I submitted the proposal, and then it did not fly. It did not fly. I mean, I was not awarded. But because I was curious and had trust in what I was putting up, I had to contact the awarding body to know why. And then they made me realize that the timelines for the grant, what I stated is not feasible, that there is no way I could have run that 2 animal experiments within a space of that 6 months, because I would need to wait for higher cook to do approval and the likes. So the following year, I took my time to sit down with the call, and I identified that planning to use animal studies for this call would not make sense for me. So what did I do? I said, okay, I'm applying for a grant. My research is on ulcerative colitis. The institute worked on cancer. Now, my host has worked on colorectal cancer. Incidentally, ulcerative colitis is a model of chronic inflammation that over time could degenerate to colorectal cancer. So I immediately identified that gap And I decided that, oh, this time around, I will be using cell lines. I will forget about animal studies. And then I took my time to properly design the project, sent it to my host to look at it. He made slight correction. And pronto, my name came out second on the list for those that were awarded. So we must be able to have all this understanding about the timelines of the project, activities we want to put, and the deliverables. Is it possible? Then the infographic summaries. For executive summaries or lay audiences, visual abstracts communicate quickly. They communicate quickly. Visual abstracts, visual objects, and images, they speak a lot. So now the pitfalls and the solutions in storytelling and proposal pitching. Lead with significance. State the impact on your opening paragraph, not just in your conclusion. You have to make your reviewer to kind of preempt, have a mind of what the solution or the impact that you are going to make. So once you are able to do that, his expectation would be that, oh, okay, let me see how he's going to go about it. But he already has it in mind even from the beginning. Let not your proposal just start with stories without involving this. You need to captivate the reviewer to be kind of buried in it and be like expectant. Then method first writing. Justify your methods through your research questions. Never describe a technique without explaining why it is the right choice. For example, you cannot look at, oh, yes, and single cell RNA-seq is now the in thing. I need to find means of doing that. You want to do single cell RNA-seq on a grant of 2005. It doesn't make sense. You cannot fit that in. Or for example, you are looking at, oh yeah, spatial transcriptomics. If I say I'm going to do that, I will state in my methods how I am going to identify biomarker for that pathology, since there are few biomarkers in it. And then so you will do spatial transcriptomics for a grant of less than 30,000, when just the kit for spatial transcriptomics itself from 10x Genomics is about 40,000. All these we have to look into it. We have to take into consideration. Write for the smartest non-specialist in the room. Define acronyms. Explain field-specific terms. Don't just try to impress or intimidate them with those your big words, medical terms, and jargons. Any abbreviation you use, make sure that they are well explained somewhere in the text. Make objectives smart. Your objective must follow this. It must be specific, it must be measurable, it must be achievable, it must be relevant, and it must be time-bound. That is what I mean by smart there. Your objectives, smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Now, ignoring reviewers' criteria. Download the rubric, map every section of your proposal to evaluation criteria explicitly. Make sure that you have it, or every section well mapped out, everything explicitly stated, so that you don't have any mistake there. Don't write don't apply for a grant or pitch your story and think that, oh, this thing is perfectly done, let me go and submit. No. Try and get other reviewers to help you take a look at it. Most times in our lab here, once anybody come up with a grant proposal, of course, pass through every member of the lab to make their input. And then there will also be another lab meeting that will all look at it critically to see any area of pitfall that has to be attended to. Because, yeah, people have it go ahead more than one another. What I may have overlooked, someone else will not overlook it. Or what I did not see or identify, someone else may identify it. And that may be the pit of that project. Then avoid not having preliminary data if you are applying for a grant. Ensure that you have that, because that's what gives the reviewer an inkling that, oh, you have knowledge of this research area. So the storytelling framework, of course, this is like a summary of what we have been saying from the beginning. Before the pitch, read the founder's strategic plan. Make sure you read and digest the call perfectly before you even try to pitch your proposal. Study past funded proposals. Proposals that have been funded by such organization. They are most of those funding bodies you see proposals that they have previously funded. Go back to it, read the title, look at those that won it, go back to their Scopus or their Google Scholar page, identify some of their papers, download it, read it, have understanding of it. If you have access to some of the proposals, read it and see how it was properly crafted to have qualified to win it. Then map your work to their priorities. Just tailor what you have towards a sample of success that you have seen. Then draft a 50-word elevator pitch. I was thinking that would be a kind of a class exercise that we will quickly do, but I don't think we have time for that now. So during the pitch, yes, you identify the hook, the gap, that solution, and then the impact is going to make. Use the active voice throughout your writing. Quantify every claim that you can. Then write for clarity and then precision. Your writing must be very, very clear and concise. Request reviewer feedback. I said that earlier. Don't just think what you have done is perfect. There is no need to give it to anyone to have a look. Revise for the next submission again. And then keep a wins and losses log. Share your story with your network. Keep a win and losses. My mentor will always say that if you win 1 out of 10, it is not a bad result. At least most of us in academics should have been used to getting sorry or we regret or after careful evaluation, we have decided to move along with better candidates with proposal that closely align with, you know how they craft those statements to just make you happy. Yeah. So don't feel bad, don't get dejected, don't get discouraged. Just keep writing. While you are writing, when you are making your submissions, also improve yourself. And I'm sure that one will definitely come. I'm sure maybe Dr. Philip Adeniyi will remember when I started applying for postdoc positions in 2022. I stayed back, and for the first 50 applications that I sent out, there was no positive response. In 1 whole month, I was sending out at least 2 applications. No positive response from the first 60. Yes, first 60. It's enough to say, oh, I am tired. I think this thing is not going to work. But he encouraged, he said, keep doing it. And of course, I was doing it and I was praying along. And on the 63rd one, somebody replied and said, oh, we're on a conference now. Would you be willing to meet me one-on-one at so time? I said, fine, let me know when you are here. And then on the 70-something one, another one contacted me and said, oh, I'm interested in your background. I have a project that's closely aligned with what you are doing. Let's have a time to talk. I said, okay. I was waiting for her invitation, and then she had a family issue. And then she didn't contact me. Then the first person contacted me and scheduled an interview. So I did the interview. But I said it when I started this presentation. My background was totally different from his project, but something interested him when we were doing the interview. He said, I just believe that you will be able to handle this project, having been able to let me understand how you maneuvered from your research in ulcerative colitis with its escalation to colorectal cancer, your inability to carry out that fully and then you creating a scientific explanation between the gastrointestinal tract and the brain via the gut-brain axis, and you getting a research finding that got you funded for this trip. That was just his interest. And he said, I think you will be able to handle this project, multiple myeloma. And I've been on that project till now. Share your story with your network. At times, our stories can be a kind of motivating factor to people in our network, just like the one I have just said now. Don't feel discouraged. Always keep striving, keep believing in yourself. And someone was asking me, and he said, who does that? I think it was the interview I went for at the Indian embassy. So, yeah, if anyone has ever been there, maybe then, our time, it's going to be a kind of a one-on-one meeting as if you are coming for a job interview when you are coming for their visa interview. So I was there right in front of the VO. He looked at my documents, looked at the proposal of the project I was going to do, looked at my CV. He had even gone to Scopus or Google Scholar to see my publications. And then he looked at me and said, okay, I could see that your last publication was on inflammation. But now, from our discussion now, you said your current research is on ulcerative colitis. How come you are now going to carry out research on colorectal cancer? What is the link? So I first paused, and he said, are you confused and you don't know what to say? And then I said, not at all. I'm just trying to see how I would be able to give this description in a layman language that you can understand. So someone told me that was kind of insulting, but that was the fact. So I had to start picking it from letting him know what inflammation is, and that ulcerative colitis is a type of inflammatory bowel disease. Inflammatory bowel disease is chronic inflammation, and then chronic inflammation or that inflammatory bowel disease, precisely the ulcerative colitis type, if not well managed, could escalate to colorectal cancer, and that was what I am doing. And after answering that question, he just took my papers and issued my visa straight away. So, start writing your story today. Write your 50-word research story this week. Ask a non-expert colleague to read your abstract. Identify 3 funding calls that align with your narrative, and build a visual abstract for your next proposal. Develop a proposal and submit one. If you don't start, you will not win. Don't get scared. My grandmother will say, you don't have to die before the actual date comes. Yes, there are requirements. Try. Once you see that you meet quite a good number of them, send in your application. Don't just get scared. Like I said, I was thinking I would just reiterate this to us, and then I would there would be time for us to quickly have a short classwork. I would have want probably those listening to us to quickly look at what we have said so far, look at the area of research interest, and cover something like what I said. But time will not permit us to do that now, but you can actually do that on your own, and let this spawn you to identify 3 funding calls that you can apply for, and let it start. So, yeah, thanks to various organizations that have had the opportunity to fund me and my research. My first funding was from Elizabeth University Research Endowment Fund, even though it was little, but that was the beginning. And then the next was the International Society for Neurochemistry. I have enjoyed two trips with them. Many thanks to them. And the next is the government of India through the Department of Science and Technology. They gave me the Research Training Fellowship for Developing Country Scientists to the Regional Cancer Center in Trivandrum, and of course to International Myeloma Society. Thanks for the opportunity and the grant we received from them, from the Pola and Ruja Raini Foundation, who happens to be the founder of my current project. Thanks to them. And then the Indiana CTSI, thanks. We won a recent short grant with them last year. So thank you for listening. I'm not just only the one saying thank you. Some of the cells I work with are also saying thank you. The macrophages, the B cells, the dendritic cells, and the various cells that I've had cause to deal with says thank you. Thank you for your time and thank you for listening. I think I saw a question in the chat. Someone was asking about which part of the proposal can the conceptual structure be needed? I think something like that. In most cases, it could be just shortly before or after the abstract, because it's always best for the reviewer to see that the conceptual structure before starting to read the main body of your proposal. The person should be able to have, the reviewer should be able to have a summary of you in mind about what you're trying to present, and then having registered that concept in his mind, he wants to read through to see how you're going to meet that. I hope that answers your question.
Please send in your question, and if you want to ask in person, raise your hands up. That would be great for us to. This is a very encompassing presentation. You know, it's always good sometimes to have some slight delay. We could have had it about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but now we are having it, and it can be better than this. Thank you, Dr. Modrikin, for the wonderful talk. Yeah.
Thank you, Doc. Maybe if I had it 2 weeks ago, it would have just been 15 minutes brushing through kind of thing.
And I mean, now you have full day, yeah. And you may see that we did not introduce Dr. Omodokun officially, right? Because I know you, all of us know him because he's a mentor on the platform. And very soon, some of you will be his direct mentee. Uh, a good thing.
Okay, some of us are not good with designs. How do we go about graphical abstracts? Hi, let me give you one secret. In this present day as a scientist, seriously, if you do not gather your loins and get acquainted with getting familiar with AI and using them, you are lagging behind. Of course, in our days when we started, Dr. Adeniyi would buttress that there was nothing like AI. But if you say you don't want to get interested in it now, we just want to waste our time. I remember when I have papers and I have probably revisions to do, in just attending to the references alone, I could take 2 days. But in just one single prompt, in less than five minutes, it came with all the suggestions of the references that I need. So please, you could use BioRender. BioRender has free version that you could learn how to come up with conceptual structures and graphical abstracts, and then some AI can also help you with that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, make sure you first have the mental picture, have in your notes, draw it in your notebook.
Yes.
Then you can now use any of the other tools. Very soon, don't worry, there are tools, even AI tools, that you can take the picture and you convert it to graphical abstract. Just take the picture of the notes and it can convert it to you. You don't have to do it because as a scientist, you don't have to learn all the tools. And you can even ask someone. That's why you are on AYS. AYS is a platform.
Yeah.
We don't forget that we have the IT group. They are helping us to design flyers and anything. You can ask, sorry, I want to do this. Can you help me? And ultimately, you can use Baorenda. Baorenda have a video fashion. And the way I use it, I use it after designing. I will just screenshot it because sometimes if I want to save it, they want to put their
Exactly.
watermark, and I don't want it to watermark to be. I will acknowledge them, but I will just put that. You can screenshot it and crop it into your work. That is another alternative. But just you need to master it. If you don't know how to do it, ask for help. That's why you're here.
And for the screenshots, it's simple. Just use the snipping tool on your computer. So yeah, Siri says, please, I would like to know if we have to choose between central question and hypothesis, or it is possible to use both for good proposals. Some proposals may actually itemize how they want you to respond. So follow their instructions strictly, and then if not, I think your what you are trying to address would probably speak better of the better one to choose. Central question, you could just find a way of pulling your question together in a single sentence to state your question. It's also similar to how you can come up with your hypothesis too. The hypothesis also could also be done in that manner. So, but what is most important is, like I said, identify the gap and then center your question or your hypothesis around that gap that you have identified in profiling solution to it. Do we have anyone up there again? None. Yeah, I already answered that. So I already answered that. Yeah. Yeah. No new question. Ah, it is compulsory. Is it compulsory to have budget in proposal, most especially when it is not stated? You need to, because most funding will state the worth of it. I mean, how much they are going to release. Like I said earlier. So you can, if you do not come up with your budget, how do you justify that what you have in mind or the project that you have designed, what they are going to provide, I mean the fund, is going to be enough for what you have presented. So your proposal budget, not just the proposal budget, with the timeline at the activities, is what will give the reviewers an inkling of the fact that, oh, you know what you are doing. Please, it is very important, and you have to be very, very careful with it. In fact, that's in some big proposals. There are some experts who handle the budget part of it, but be very careful. Don't just allocate cost anyhow, just because you want to meet up with it. And then when you are preparing your budget, ensure that you do not overshoot the cost or the funding that is available. Ensure it's not more than it. What's the limit for the use of AI in proposals? I brought in AI when someone was talking about the conceptual structure. That's why I said that. you will, yeah, because we seem to be becoming so lazy in recent time that we rely solely on AI. It can actually spell our doom if 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 we get so lazy and we put our reliance on it. I've once felt a victim of information I got from AI. I was making a presentation about the sex differential responses to the animals I was using in my research. And then my lab mates and the audience were like, oh, this is interesting. We never thought of this. But are you sure that this has nothing to do with the parent cell line? That was the cell line from a male or female. Prior to that meeting, I already asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT told me that the cell line was from female. And then I proudly said it in the lab meeting that yes, it's from female. My PI looked at me, I was like, are you sure, Sean? I said, yes, it's from female. I said it's from female. Of course, having it from female is gonna like have a negative effect on my findings, which reviewers could question that part of it. My PI was not comfortable. He had to just go and make his own personal search until he came back with it after some hours and said, Sean, I told you, this is not from female, it's from male. I have evidences from 2 papers. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, AI actually misled me. It was ChatGPT. And that day, he introduced me to Perplexity AI. So anything on research, I always consult Perplexity. Perplexity will give me that information, give me references, and even still give information around the question that I have asked. I'm using a pro version though.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah, I am well, what do I want to give myself a title on AI now? As someone who advocates for the use of AI. That question, AI is just like people have already disabused our mind concerning AI. As if have you ever started a talk and someone asks you a question about, oh, do you use Google for your work? Right? Nobody ever asked that question. Well, AI is just like that too, provided you do not use it as a single source of information and you do not abuse it. It's like the reason why AI, and I can tell you why they are thinking that way, is because you cannot sit down and ask your girlfriend to help you to write a proposal. Right? You can't sit down and tell your daddy to help you, or your mother or your friend to help you to write a proposal. They will not do that. But that is what the AI can now do now. That's the main reason why people are objecting. That you should not use AI to just help you to, because AI can do it. Just give the AI a proposal, give it a topic, even just give the idea, can you write a proposal, 5-page proposal on this idea, it will generate it. That is what AI should not be used for. But for instance, you can ask AI, any form of AI, say, can you help me? I want to read about this paper. Can you list me the most relevant paper on this topic? AI will give you. That is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
That is not a bad thing. And you don't have to say it when some people say, because now some people are developing police now. Do you use AI? Okay, if I answer that question, can you help me to just list 10 most important paper in this field? Now, and the AI give me that 10, and I used it, and I went to go ahead to go and download them on the PubMed, and I read them. Which part of my proposal will I put that on? No, during the course of this work, I asked AI to give me the list of because sometimes your friend suggested that. Sometimes you are sitting in your PI lab, and PI say, oh, on this paper I have 3 papers to recommend for you. And you don't add that. Therefore, there are some things you should not do. Know that one ethically. But there are some things that you can do with AI that you don't even need to report. Because when I sat down with my boss in the office and he gave me a recommendation of a paper, or I asked my RA, that's okay, all my students, okay, go and look for 10 people on this paper. I don't add all those because AI is just an assistant and keep it as such. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you, Doc. So in response to Ruth Aladiloye's question, you have answered part of it, and that's the truth. Your graphical abstract is your personal design, mind you. Before you actually come up on getting the graphics, you should have even mapped it out in paper, describing your mechanism or the process, before you now look for means of putting it together in animation or in objects. So you don't need to reference. How will you reference AI? Please, oh no, don't reference AI. It is your own intellectual thought to put it together. Except if you just want to go to AI and just lift a mechanism directly from somewhere and put it to say that is yours. No, that is not acceptable in science. You may get extractions from different places and put it together to match what you have designed. Yes. Yeah, thank you. This is 17 minutes past 2. I wish I could stay longer.
And to clarify that, to add more to what Dr. Omojokun just said, imagine you are drawing an illustration, which is allowed, you can do, right? And you want to draw a lever. You just Google, you want to do an abstract, graphical abstract. You need a lever. You Google lever, you get a lever, and you put that lever there. And you wanted to draw a kidney because you don't have that aesthetic design, and you don't have to have it, right? And you look for a kidney on Google, you get one free, you put it there. And you wanted to look for pancreas, you Google it. Therefore, you are able to arrange it, and you are able to do arrow design and do everything, and you label it. In the description, will you go there and say, okay, this I draw you, because they will assume you drew the line, you do the abstract, right? You won't go there and say, oh yeah, I Google on AI on Google to get this to get the heart. I got the heart from PS so, and I got the liver from pancreas. Then when I want to draw the line, I went to the PowerPoint, or then and I draw the line. You don't want to do those things because they assume you generated them using anything possible, except to use Biorender. The reason why Biorender is software like Biorender, or you can say, oh, this was designed using this. That's all.
Yes.
You can. It's allowed because you don't want to bore people, except that the whole image was gotten from somewhere, and you can say, oh, this image was obtained from this, and you don't even use something like that for your publication, except you have a copyright. All right, except you want to use this for your talk. Now, except you want to use it for your talk, you don't put something like that in your publication, because they want every information there to be originally designed by yourself. And therefore, the content, the elements, as we all know, can be obtained because you are not drawing. You can illustrate. You can get the chemical leader. For instance, you want to draw benzene, chemical formula for benzene. You just get it online and you put it. You want to reference, oh yeah, benzene was good. Everybody knows you could have drawn that. Therefore, there's some things that you don't need to lay. I know it is euphoria, but if you listen to my talk on AI, I've already said those things are not necessarily. It's just people who are just skeptical on what AI can do and what cannot do. And AI can also help you. In fact, many of them have already helped for readability. You can use this for readability as well. And if you use it for readability, you can set it in your proposal. Then if they ask, well, the AI will use it for readability. It's possible. You can state it there. There is no error. Nobody will punish you for that. Why? Because your original proposals are not only yours own sole properties, right? I think if Dr. Omojokun will tell you the truth here, as anyone who has ever submitted a proposal written by himself, published by himself alone without showing anybody. No one. Because you're allowed to show it to people, even if you are a Nobel Prize winner. People will go through your work. You don't list it there as, oh yeah, when I first generated the first draft, I sent it to my own graduate student to help me to read, and when they finished reading, I corrected it and I gave it to. No, all those information are not necessary because you are required to receive help. The thing is, this idea is originally yours. That's all what matters. All that the help that you receive, they are not necessarily. Therefore, the only thing is use it responsibly.
Yeah, thank you, Doc.
Responsibly. Yeah.
Thank you, Doc. Sorry, Doc and Mentees, I'm sorry I will have to leave now. My son has a game and I have to drive 15 minutes there. The game starts 2:30. I'm sorry.
Okay, don't worry. We'll call it over. And if anyone have a question again, if you have a question, let's celebrate before Dr. Omojokun leave. Let's celebrate him. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've already spent an hour plus. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate
this is the end of our. I don't know if Dr. Ishola is here or Dr. Ritoke is here. Today is the last of foundational training for AYS pre-mentee. And I don't know if you have, but hopefully by this next week, Saturday, you will have know your mentor. We will communicate to you, those of you who are skate through. You yourself know yourself. If you know yourself, go and check your own calendar. And after this talk, I will block the comment sections on the WhatsApp group and be able to move into re-evaluation mode, and we'll be able to send those who did not meet our criteria will be sent out, and those who meet our criteria will be given opportunity to continue the training. I wish you all the best. I hope you will do well in the endeavor. Thank you. If you have any question for me, please. Is Dr. Ishola here? Dr. Ishola, are you here? Okay, if Dr. Ishola is not here, let's call it a day. I believe we have wonderful time today already.